go stealing them. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, that was great. Awesome, great job. Thank you very much. No, you can't leave. You cannot leave. No, sorry, you have to sit back down again. You're going to really enjoy this talk. Again, it's a privilege and an honor to meet, can I say a friend as well now? But someone from the industry I've spoken to a number of times, a real expert, someone who's actually been there and done it. So, Scott, I'm going to hand it over to you. No one else is allowed to move. If I see anyone moving. Scott, it's all yours, young man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Terrific.
Extended reality technologies are saving money through reducing downtime of machinery and also reducing repair time.
So one specific time that stands out in my mind was when I was working at a mill and we had a network outage to about half the mill. We were having a communication issue with me describing what I was seeing and them telling me what to look for. And then it dawned on me that I actually had a HoloLens, hooked everyone up to remote assist, and then they were able to see through my eyes. They told me what to look for, pointed it out, were able to circle things in my field of view, and within 15, 20 minutes, it was fixed.
XR is an umbrella term for augmented or virtual reality. Augmented reality is what you're used to seeing where you hold a device or wear a device and you have virtual objects in your field of view. This device allows you to not just get your standard HoloLens 2 experience. For safety's sake, the visor folds up 180 degrees, and in loud environments, we use bone conduction audio so you can hear even in the loudest of environments. Think about how new hire orientations used to happen, and that trainer has to walk them in a loud, sometimes dangerous, hectic environment like our factory floors to give them a tour and to show them the different parts of the floor. We're able to take a 360 walkthrough of our factory and show those workers that walkthrough on a big screen in the training room. The last thing that we do is we do a fair amount of virtual reality training where I can put a factory worker in a training room into a VR headset, and I can let them learn how to do something that they're going to need to do on the factory floor, go through these iterations, get that muscle memory built, learn how to do that procedure in a risk-free, safe environment before they ever go out to the floor to attempt to do it with real equipment.
I think technologies like XR are going to be extremely beneficial in providing a safer workplace for our employees, better training, overall increase in productivity, simply because we'll be providing a better environment and providing our employees peace of mind that they've always got somebody they can turn to who can be right there on their shoulder to help out at any time.
Good morning, everybody. You are the first group of lucky people to see that video. I appreciate WestRock for creating that. A little bit about me. I'm not going to go through everything on these slides because I was reminded this morning that I got some busy dang slides, right? And so we don't have time for all that. Most important thing on this slide, besides my family, is I love tacos. So if you're on Instagram, I'm me.likey.tacos. And I will throw in that I'm a big fan of the Black Crows. So if you are a Gen Xer and you like Black Crows, we are instant friends. I have a beautiful family. I love to get outdoors. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I work for the wonderful consumer packaging and paper company called WestRock. We have 300 factories around the world making most of what you see on grocery store shelves, drugstore shelves, and pizza boxes we are particularly proud of. My career has been about 27 years in technology. I've worked for most of the employers in Atlanta in the last 27 years. And I am proud, again, to be a technology fellow with WestRock and the subject matter expert in our company for extended reality. That last panel, I've probably learned more listening to that last panel than I can share with you in the next 20 minutes. Great panel, good friends of mine, and certainly some real thought leaders in the space. When we talk about scale, we may have those in the room who aren't even considering or haven't even done their first sites yet, and certainly that's okay. We're all at different places in our journey, but we're going to assume, for the purpose of this conversation, that you've at least done a site. You're looking at how do we take and go to sites 2 through 100, 2 through 1,000, that sort of thing, right? And so I want you to keep in mind a couple of things today. Everything that I say is my own, and my experiences may be different than yours. Certainly that's what makes it all wonderful, is that we all have different experiences, different perspectives, and we can share encouragement and experience with each other. I absolutely do the ugliest PowerPoints in history, and so this is probably going to follow suit. I may actually use Comic Sans font at some point in this PowerPoint. So when you think about that first pilot that you did, right? Certainly you want to keep in mind, was it really successful? Is it sustainable? Could you continue on doing other sites the way you did that first site? Because my experience and my professional guidance would be no. The things that we did to get that first site done are not necessarily scalable. We did what we had to do to get this technology into the hands and onto the heads of our frontline workers, but some of those spreadsheets for tracking, handshake deals with device management, with procurement, maybe with security, some of those things that we did initially are not going to scale well because it's going to take so much time and so much effort to be able to replicate that. We're going to have to start thinking differently. We're going to have to put processes in place that are going to be different. We're going to have to automate where we can so that we're not just taking and doing that a bunch more times, because you will wear yourself out, right? I'm not saying that I ever bribed or paid off anyone, but we did have some handshake deals. WestRock has been a great company to work for, and great people there. And we have managed to break through, get extended reality technologies into our factories, onto the shop floors, and it is bringing value. And so scale, I'm just like everyone else, right? When we talk about scale, I would imagine that you guys are probably like me. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I heard a couple of years ago somebody said, it was a gentleman from RealWare, and I thought this was pretty profound. He said, once you prove that something brings value once, and you don't go replicate that or scale that, you are missing out on ROI, on safety, revenue generation. You are missing out on opportunity. So there's this juxtaposition of, I got to go take and go scale, but yet there's so many different ways to do that. You'll hear, and I talked about this in the last panel, right? You can repeat the first way a bunch of more times. You can go do that to the second site through infinity, and you can just keep hiring people and keep trying to replicate that and managing that on your spreadsheets and traveling all over the planet. That is a way to do it. There is a top-down approach, right? We don't all have that sweet Walmart money and just maybe send devices to 10,000 associates. It is a way to do it as well. It's been very successful for some companies. And I think Walmart has been a great example of that. I want to propose, though, that what we're doing, the approach that we're taking, is really one of training XR champions. So in the video, you saw my friend Matt Corcoran. Matt is a prime example of somebody that was in one of our mills in Chattanooga, Tennessee, big fan of the technology, super sharp guy, and really took the role of XR champion in his mill. Matt now works in corporate with me, and we are the evil corporate presence, but he is a great example of an XR champion that is evangelizing and bringing that technology out to the shop floor across the company. We have a group of folks, the Extended Reality Center of Excellence, that I hope are watching online today. Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. and they do a great job of training XR champions to be able to go evangelize and spread extended reality throughout our factories. Now what that means though is that when we work with champions, we work in different divisions or different regions, different verticals, and we train those who raise their hands, those who want to be involved. This is very important. Not ones that are voluntold that they're going to be the XR champions, right? You've got to have, if you're going to have adoption on the shop floor, you've got to have adoption and interest and passion and willingness with your champions to start, or it's not going to go very far. A lot of things that you're going to need to do differently as you scale. So I'm going to just go there to the end and say, take a picture of that if you want or not. But there's a lot of different things you're going to need to do as you start to scale, right? Again, back to some of those processes that we had in the beginning, the things that I did to get the first couple of factories done, right, are not going to necessarily work as we start to roll out and go out into the field. We have 300 factories at WestRock, and I can tell you that doing what we did in the first factory, even the second, third, and fourth, is not going to work, right? We're going to have to change the way we approach, and again, our choice is to train through champions. I think probably I had a great conversation with a gentleman this morning who runs device management, and I was saying, I'm going to talk about you in my talk today, your role, because it's so important that we have a good rapport and good relationship and good collaboration with those that are going to support the procurement, securing, rollout, and support of our devices and software out in the field, because you can't do that. Your business card is not the tech support line. It can be. Mine was for years. Drove my wife and kids nuts, right? You've got to have that army of folks to help you out. International considerations is another thing. It's all fine and dandy to do it in Atlanta, Georgia, and our 8 mills or factories there, or even in the Southeast, or even in North America. But it starts to get weird when you go to other countries, different languages, different restrictions on devices and imports and that sort of thing. So there's going to be a lot of different things you're going to need to do differently, and I'm going to give you my suggestions here at the end. Training XR champions is different than training end users, right? You need to be working with a champion that is interested, excited, has a good attitude and good aptitude to learn. And at that point, you're going to start to see that you're training someone how to train others. You are a university professor training teachers that are going to go out and teach students. So it's a bit of a different mindset and different skill set. Potential hurdles. I've run into all of these. I would imagine that you have too. Your devices get bricked. Who's had a device get bricked after it's been deployed? Yeah, right. So we've had this where devices go out, they get bricked, and then we've got to react and move on to other devices. Maybe a second version of that, or a third version of that, or to a different device. Employees leave. This happens, and it drives me nuts, where we're working with folks, and they're excited, and they're championing the cause, and they're putting this technology into their mill, and then they leave. And so much of that knowledge that we're trying to keep in the company, in our front lines, leaves in the extended reality sector. Technology changes all the time. If you've been in technology as long as I have, you know that this happens a lot. I call these snakes in the grass that jump out and bite you. They're things that you can't plan for. They're people that you don't know that are really not a big fan of what you're trying to do. The naysayers, right? And this game, guys, ladies, it's even more about relationships and communication and rapport than it is about the technology. I want to make a bold statement that the technology is easy. The difficult part is dealing with other people. If I just didn't have any people to deal with, man, we'd be great, right? It doesn't work that way. Software providers go under or get bought, and we have to react to that as well. These are real things that happen. Sometimes things happen that you can't plan for, you can't anticipate. You see a press release come out, and something happens, and next thing you know, there goes all your plans out the windows. I mean, hypothetically, some of these things may happen for a company like WestRock or your company. One of the things I like to say when I'm talking to folks about the implementation of extended reality out into industrial environments is you have to tend the garden that you plant. Once you go plant devices, once you go plant knowledge, you plant training, you've got to have regular touch points with those folks in those environments. You've got to feed and water and make sure that the sun is shining down on those gardens. You got to keep your devices fed. You got it back to device management. You've got to keep the OS updates, the application updates, devices current. You've got to take a look constantly at the analytics, because if you don't have analytics, right, you're missing out on a big value of extended reality technology. We can track more in XR than you can absolutely track by someone reading an SOP in a 3-ring binder, right? Let's capitalize on that, read the analytics, discern what's going on and what's not going on, and adjust. This is not a set it and forget it game, right? This is an ongoing garden that has to be tended, has to be taken care of, or it will die. I have a picture here. My friend Amy from Futurus is here today. This is a picture inside Futurus' application called Loam, and I thought it was a good example of a garden and how, just to drive that point home, that we need to be tending our garden. If you don't go into the Loam application and feed and water and run off the critters and take care of your garden, you go back in after 3 or 4 months and it's overrun with weeds and it's dying and who knows what's going on in there, right? The neighbors are squatting, they got a trailer parked in there. So you've got to make sure that things stay going. You take on a tail every time you go put technology into a plant. It's a fact of business, right? And if you're not continuing to tend that garden, like in an application like Loam, then you are setting it and you're going to lose it. And it does you no good to try and scale if you're not keeping things going that you already planted. Final notes. This is a short one, okay? You're going to need a community of people that will risk your anger and tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. I have people in my professional network that I call friends, people like Dane Laughlin with Invista, who will tell me, man, I think you're really messing up there, Burkey. I have people who will say to me, right, the things that I need to hear. You're going to need a community. We have a community. I know Grant's here. He's got an XR at Work shirt on. Thank you, Grant, for representing. XR at Work is a community of XR practitioners. We are people who put XR into industrial enterprise environments, and we get together on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis in person, and we share experience and strength and hope and guidance with each other. You're going to need that. You got to stay up on the trends. I thought when I got into technology in the 90s, things changed a lot. They change so fast now, I mean, it'll make your head swim. And being able to separate the wheat from the chaff and being able to tell what you need to listen to, what's hype, what's not going to be beneficial to you, it can be a little daunting. Again, back to your network. Be prepared to make mistakes. We say this in corporate America. Hey, it's okay to make mistakes. But then when we make mistakes, people are always quick to point their finger and say, well, that didn't work, did it, Burkey, right? Fortunately, I work for a company that's never said that to me. They've been very forgiving and very cooperative with me when I do make mistakes, and I make plenty of them all the time. This PowerPoint is probably another example of a mistake that I've made. But I will tell you that at the end of the day, you're going to make mistakes. Things are not going to work. Like they said in the panel, you're going to have a great plan, and it's going to go out the window. Things are going to happen. At the end of the day, take care of yourself. Your health and wellness is far more important than whatever you're doing in VR, right? I think anything we've seen in the last couple of years is that we've got to take care of us before we can take care of anyone else. It's only virtual reality. It's not that important. I want to thank you and ask if you have any questions.
Six. I think there's some in the app.
And it's okay if you don't. Brian, sit down.
We got one right up here. I'll help by saying Greg Cooper from Honda.
Mr.
You
Cooper.
don't have to do that.
Thanks, Scott. Great information, great
It's
food
good
for
to
thought
see
to
you.
take home. It's good to see you too. The encouraging things that I heard, because I'm fighting that fight all the way back at the grassroots side, trying to find those champions, trying to find the corporate way to speak. I've got executive support for days, but the bottom up side, that's more of a challenge than maybe you would understand, or maybe I understood when I got started. I wish I'd heard what you just said. The things that caught my attention, though, the COE, the idea of getting the Center of Excellence put together, the sponsorship behind that would not have been the power of one, you.
That's right.
I'm certain you formed some alliances. Any tips along those lines? And I derive from your talk that at some point someone said, we need to incorporate an introduction to XR, VR, AR, whatever, at the onboarding phase.
Yeah.
It may not be part of your job that you're moving into, but be prepared for this, I suspect, is going on at WestRock.
Yeah.
And I'd very much like to go on at my house. Any tips?
Now, I'll tell you, the same thing is happening, I think, all over. When I talk to other folks in the XR biz, right, is that, again, I'll re-accentuate that it is so much more about relationships. The first thing I did when I went to WestRock, listen, I'm a skinny old man with bad posture and no college degree, and I came to WestRock from the NBA. I was putting basketball games into headsets, and I came to WestRock, never been in a plant in my life. But I made a smart move, which is I said, where's procurement and security? And I found out what floor and what building they were on, and I went right to them, and I went and stuck my hand out and said, hey, I'm Scott Burkey. I represent extended reality technology. Let me explain to you what that is. And let me tell you now that it's some weird stuff you're not going to understand. But I promise you, I will not go around you. I want to work with you. And tell me how we can work together, because I want to be a blessing to you in your job, not a distraction or a person that you're constantly having to worry about. And I take that approach. For lack of smarts or intelligence, I have to be friendly. And so I take that approach in corporate, because I'm in corporate IT. No, please don't throw any tomatoes at me. But I'm in corporate IT. We are seen as the problem a lot of the times, right? But I try to be the guy that goes and sticks out my hand to others in corporate, to our executive stakeholders, to our VPs, managers, to our frontline plant managers, to our frontline workers. I try to overcome some of these snakes in the grass by just being as friendly as I can, right? Because it's difficult to have beef with someone that you know personally and you like and you get along with, right? So I try to make up for a lot of my liabilities by being friendly, and it's helped. I don't know that I would say that that's something you want to pin your, hang your hat on in business, but it's worked for me, right? And I have difficulty speaking sometimes to those with higher degrees or with more experience in the industry or a lot of tribal knowledge about manufacturing that I don't have. But I ask a lot of questions, like I know you do too. Super important to ask questions with a voice of humility.
Yeah, Ron Thompson with CAIL. The question is, if you're starting your journey again, what would you do different to fast-track progress?
So this is interesting, and thanks for that tee up, because 2 years ago at another conference, Dana and I'm going to keep bringing you up, Dana. I know you don't mind, buddy. Dana and I were on a panel about real-world XR, and one of the things, lessons learned, one of the things that we found starting off that we wish we had known, right, was that while a wealth of education comes from vendors, absolutely, there are smart people at Squint, Futurus, a lot of these vendors out here, a lot of these service providers, and headset manufacturers, their knowledge comes from their perspective, from their corner of the industry. They see a lot, but at the end of the day, they're trying to promote their business and partner with you, right? But one of the things that we found is that there's a real need for a network of XR practitioners to help each other out, right? So that's why we started. We were on stage in, what was it, Santa Clara, Dave? And we came off stage and we said, you know what? We should do a podcast, man. We should start to build a community of extended reality practitioners. And we did just that. So what I would say to those just starting off is don't try and go it the way that Dane and I did years ago, getting all of our education from vendors, though some of it should come from service providers. I would say you've got to have people in your network, cell phones, Slack, Teams, whatever the case may be, that you can reach out to and you can ask questions, you can get guidance from. I knew a metric ton about the things that I had done for 20 years before I got into XR, when I came into XR. But when I got into XR, and in particular in manufacturing, I don't know manufacturing. I'd been working in virtual reality for a couple of years for a professional sports league, and I had to rebuild a network and build a new network. And I'm proud to call a lot of people in this room my friends because they helped me do well in my job and provide for my family and make or save money for my employer. So I would say to a younger me, don't even bother getting on the internet and trying to learn without that network next to you at arm's length that you can tap into. Super important. I hope that helps, Ron.
One more.
Yes.
Hi, Scott. My name is Adam Hinsman with 3M. Great talk. Also, you should definitely check out Velvet Tacos down the street. Really good.
Which one? Velvet Taco? Yeah.
Yep. And I think when you think about deploying XR in an industry like ours, manufacturing, the pitfalls are going to be, IT procurement, but those are really kind of straightforward. How have you addressed EHS concerns, environmental health and safety, in terms of wearing a device in a manufacturing setting? It can be complicated, something that's never been done before. I'm just curious to see your, your deployment within WestRock.
The first thing we always do, and thanks for the question, man, I appreciate it. One of the things that we always do is we always look at things from a health and safety perspective, right? You've got to, right? We're 3M, WestRock, we have people who, we don't want them going home like this, right? That's not what we're trying to do. You saw on the video, you saw that we use a Trimble XR10 that gives us a 180-degree flip up, bone conduction audio, hard hat integration, right? We're always looking at what we need to do, right, in XR shouldn't step backwards in our health and safety work, and right, so that's always of paramount importance. A big thing that we do too is that we always look at when we go out with our technologies that we all in this room love and enjoy. We're not saying this is the only way you can do it from here on out. If you don't feel comfortable with this, if after watching someone else you feel like maybe that's not for you, we still have, I say this tongue in cheek, we still have 3-ring binders, and we still have a crabby old guy that'll teach you how to do your job, if that's what you'd rather do. And some folks do. So we do a mix of head-mounted devices. We do a lot of handheld devices because people are more comfortable with handheld devices. And even handheld devices, we work with health and safety on if you move, the screen blacks out, right? So until you get where you need to go, the screen doesn't come back on. So there's a lot of different little tips and tricks you can do. I would encourage you to work with your health and safety group at 3M and to talk to other practitioners about ways they've tried to keep safety first in their efforts in XR, you bet. I love your Post-it notes, by the way, 3M, that's terrific.
Sorry, I know it's time for a break, but I do have a question.
What do you think?
Real quick, okay? So quick answer.
Okay.
But scale, we've had the panel, we've had your talk about scale.
Mm-hmm.
What is scale to you, really quick? Is it the number of kind of headsets and licenses out there, or is it the maturity of your organization and processes?
I would say scale for me, in my opinion, Mark, is that point to where the technology becomes an ecosystem and it starts to take on a life of its own and you manage it in a different way. You're no longer pulling it into your facilities. You are guiding and shaping and supporting it as it grows. And I think when that hits, you'll know it. It can be a little bit of an oh crap moment, but it's a wonderful thing. And I think it's different for every company, but when it turns and it starts working for you, you're hitting scale, you bet.
Thank you. I'd love everyone else's thought on scale as well, either through the app and stuff like that, because I think it's a debate. We talk about scale, but what is scale? So anybody's thoughts on that will be really welcome. Okay, it's time for a break. Scott, thank you very much indeed.
Yes, sir.
It was awesome.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
If you can be back for 11:35 for some more excellent panels. Thank you.